Good evening.
Hi, Kenneth.
How you doing?
Good,
Hello.
thanks. Hi, Kenneth.
I forget where to look.
Hi, Kenneth.
How you doing?
I'm all right. Yourself?
Great.
Looking for this. Right, you can. I know. Got to unmute myself.
Oh yeah, you're muted.
Yeah, because then you can keep talking. And I've got my water. Are you coming downstairs?
Yeah, I think you're mute.
So there may be a sense of sitting on a chair and watching someone in a floral shirt and with a terrible COVID haircut talk about something or other. There may be a sense of being there and watching and hearing and being the one sitting on the seat, and being in the body, somewhere in there, behind the eyes or bound by the skin, being a person, being an individual, maybe. That's what's going to be discussed, shared. Another possibility is going to be shared, another perception. Perhaps perception's the wrong word. Perception implies it's for somebody. Another possibility that sense of being an individual, of being a person in the world is artificial. It's an appearance. And all the while there's that sense, there's a yearning for something. And that something can't be identified by the person. You can never put your finger on it, what it is you're looking for. And you search, and everyone is searching. Once there's a sense of being a separate person, there's searching. Doesn't matter whether it's for the €1,000,000 and the fast car, or for spiritual enlightenment, or to be the most liked, kind, empathic person, whatever it is. We're all, as people, just searching. And what is actually being searched for is your own absence. And your own absence is just what already is. It's just this. So this is just what's looked for always. Always just this. Always, always just what appears to be happening. So it's never been anything else. But as a person, the energy of being a person is that it's a hopeful energy of something better around the next corner, and it's a continual rejection of what is in favor of what might be. So this isn't seen by the person, and actually the person, the individual, is just individualizing. It's in a closed loop of its own knowing, and that's all the individual is interested in. But while there's that sense of being a person, this is longed for. Wholeness is longed for. Not being a person is longed for. So all the while there's a sense of being a person, there's the world out there, and there's me, there's little old me. And oneness or wholeness is longed for. And the big divine comedy is that the big joke is that that sense of being one is only artificial. It's not real. And in fact, that oneness that's yearned for is already. It's already what is. So that's why it appears to hide, and how it appears to hide is by already being what is. So therefore there's nothing to get, and there's no one to get it. So it's not that there's going to be an answer to a question here. This is very energetic. This can resonate it does resonate. It can resonate very, very strongly. It resonates as it resonates. It can also be quite confronting that feels separate. Maybe it's heard as it's heard. But there's nothing, there's no answers being offered here. It's that what's yearned for can be seen. The apparent me can apparently fall away, and it's just very obvious that this is it. And it's not that there's an answer then, it's that there is no question. The questions are there no more. The question is only there when there's a sense of being separate. The question is an aspect of separation. There clearly are no questions when the apparently me is no longer, as there's only just immediate aliveness. Life is full on and immediate and unknowable, completely unknowable. It's just, to be known, it has to be a person who's apart from it to know it. There has to be that separation to know it. So we're going to speak about this. And if something comes up to ask, just it's there to be asked. If you don't want to ask anything, then that's okay too. So there's no kind of silly questions, or if it feels like an obvious thing to ask, it doesn't matter. It's there to be asked. Or also just comments or whatever. If you want to share, if something is there, wants to be shared, it can just be said. So, yeah. You can also someone likes my haircut. I don't know. It's a controversial one. Okay, so we have a question from Gustav. Is there no contraction whatsoever there, or due to that there is no misleading thoughts regarding identity appearing anymore, just the clear communication? It's indescribable what's here. It's not describable, because all there is from this perception is there's nobody having a perception. There's just what appears to be happening. So right now there's sound of a particular quality because I've got headphones on, and there's a screen here and I'm looking at that. There's a sensation of the chair. It's kind of hard. I should have got a cushion. I might grab a cushion. I'm going to grab a cushion actually. Yeah. So a chair that's a bit more comfortable now. There's only what appears to be happening. So there's no, like, there's to say that there's no contraction here any longer, or they're just words really. There's just life and Kennethine and whatever appears to happen in that. And it's, yeah, so anything can arise, any sensation can arise, but it wouldn't be arising for anyone. If it was a thought previously, when there was a sense of being a Kenneth, that would have felt like my thought, say an unwanted thought, disruptive thought, that was kind of looped in nature. If that same thought arose when a Kenneth apparently fell away, then there would just be that thought. So it was that sense of owning the thought and be there to collect it, was gone. Yeah. And the clear communication is nothing to do with Kenneth either. The communication is just from nothing to do with this character whatsoever. So if you ever hear a clear, uncompromising communication, it's nothing whatsoever to do with the character that appears to be communicating it. The what I get a lot with this is, well, when I'm still here and I haven't fallen away yet. So that's quite a common thing. So what we're saying is, what's being said here is that there is no separate individual. There never has been. So that can be seen, and when it is seen, it's seen that you are never there. So this idea that, well, I'm still here and I haven't fallen away yet, people are waiting for something to fall away, or to, how will something fall away if it's not real to begin with? It's only ever what appears to be happening. It's already in everything that appears to be happening. But for the person, there's the comfortable things and the nice things, and then there's this things that appear to be happening that are uncomfortable and that are unwanted, and they're rejected. So there's pulling in of pleasure and pushing away of pain. And in actuality, what's looked for is already everything. So it is the pain, of course. It's oneness. If it wasn't the pain, it wouldn't be oneness. It's clarity, but it's also confusion, of course. One implies the other. So it is all that is. And everything, there is only wholeness already. There's nobody that's tuning into this that's not already what they seek. There's nobody that's not already whole. There's no individual recognized here whatsoever. It's an appearance. So from this perception, there's nobody to be made not separate or to be made whole.
Hi, Kenneth. It's
Hey, how you
Doreen.
doing? Sorry, guys,
Good.
I'm not great with the big long messages. Hi, Doreen, how you doing? Nice to hear your voice.
Oh, thank you. Nice to see you today. I just had something that came to me, and that is that at first, when it was saw that oneness is all there is and that Doreen does not exist, it was hilarious. There was a lot of laughter. Oneness saw the funniness in it. And then a while down the road, and this is just what happened, it was clear that if Doreen doesn't exist, then neither does children, husband, and their oneness. They're not separate individuals. And it was really hard on oneness. That's all I can say. It's just what showed up. I know that Doreen wasn't grieving it because she doesn't exist, but oneness did notice. I just went back to Minnesota and saw my family, and it was different. For oneness, for what was happening, it's just what happened.
It may be a sense, there may still be a sense of, it's quite common for there still to be a sense of Doreen there, or an individual slight sense of it. It's very common.
Oh,
but this is seen.
definitely.
So it would be that sense then that would have felt sad that the family and so on and so forth. Because when this is seen and everything is seen as oneness, everything is just what is husband, children, wife, etc., is just oneness. It's whole. It's complete. There's no lamenting that.
That is very obvious. That is very obvious. It is, however, just takes a while to see. It's almost like come back. People come back. I don't know who's saying that. I don't know where that's coming from, because I know that Doreen does not exist. But yeah, when someone says, well, hi, Doreen, nice to see you, there is a sense of that being here, although I know that she's never existed.
That's what's appearing to happen then, yeah.
That's what's happening. And I have no control over what comes out of this mouth right now talking, and there's no control what comes out of your mouth talking. So it's just wholeness, it's oneness living through these body minds, and so what shows up, and I'm just sharing what shows up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's no right or wrong with anything.
No,
everything just is and isn't.
You would think
everything
though,
just is and isn't. it's life and death. It's everything and
Yes.
nothing. And that's it. Yeah, it is all that is.
It is. And it is to realize that there is no separation. There is no separate. And there never has been. So when this is seen through, nothing changes.
No.
It just doesn't, nothing. Why would it change? All of a sudden, oh, Doreen, she saw oneness. No, Doreen didn't see oneness, so things didn't change. There was no Doreen. It was obvious. That was the big obvious.
Yeah.
There's nothing there.
That's
Call
a very
it Doreen.
common, one of the common reports from a parent falling away of someone is the scene immediately in that they were never there. It's
it's funny.
It's almost like a lot of the other things can maybe seen or not seen. For instance, that everything being nothing, nothing apparently happened and all of that. There are people that aren't there anymore that would have no comment on it. A lot of that go, yeah, whatever, I don't know. It's just this. But it's very common for people to say that it's so obvious that they were never there. It was all a story. Being a person,
and it was
being
obvious
the
that
John,
we didn't
being the
need...
Mike, being the Mary, whoever, that was all just it was an appearance, only an appearance, was never real. So that's, people think when listening to this that there's a real person who's traveling through their life, and then something happens to them and they're no longer there and there's only oneness. That's not how it is, because there's never a real person anywhere. But in aliveness and wholeness, it appears to be that it's this constricted, contracted sense of being a person. It's an embodied, contracted energy, and it's a lived reality for the person. It's absolutely real for the person. And that's what appears to happen, but it's not absolutely real. It's an appearance. So it's that it's until it can be just released, apparently released. And then it's very obvious there only was what appeared to be happening. And that's the wholeness. That's it.
Yeah, and there's nothing that can be done. People say, well, I need a teacher for non-duality. Well, that's funny too. When I realized that oneness, why would oneness need a teacher to be
there's no
oneness?
teachers. There's no teachers. No such thing as a teacher.
There's no teachers.
This isn't a teacher whatsoever. There's no teachers at all. There's no authority. There's no authority on this. There's nobody who knows this and then speaks from an authoritative sense at all. It's just shared, just a sharing in openness. That's all it is. Yeah. And it's heard as it's heard. So someone says this is a load of nonsense, then that's what's happening then. So there's no agenda in it. It's wild and free and woo.
Yeah.
It's totally boundless.
It is free.
There's an energy to it. There's a boundless energy to this communication that's nothing to do with any character. And people sense that. It can be sensed very quickly, actually, that it's very different to a communication that speaks to somebody. And that's the resonance that I speak of at the beginning. That the resonance is that can resonate. This boundlessness can resonate very strongly, actually, and then it can be confronting also to that feels separate.
Well, thank you for sharing today with
always
all
nice
of us.
To hear from you, Doreen.
Nice to hear from you, and I will talk soon. Okay.
No doubt, Doreen. Okay. Yeah,
no doubt.
Hey, Kenneth.
How you doing?
Good. Sort of on.
Oh, Lynn, how you doing?
Good. Doreen just kind of woke something up when she was talking there, and it feels like there's this real subtle thing that's like the difference, for lack of a better word, between being yourself and that falling away. That it's so subtle. It's nothing. It's like there's no difference. Like what she was saying, how nothing changes.
Yeah.
Like logically, how could it? If you were never there, then your thoughts, your emotions, and everyone else's speech apparent decisions. Everything that you see must have always been happening without anyone.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's like a
no.
logical thing that comes to mind. But then the
Mm,
experience inside, when there's been these glimpses or whatever you want to call it,
mm,
it's so subtle. It's like
mm.
the difference between being and not being an individual is nothing. It's like it
No,
just slips right
it
between.
is no thing. Yeah, it's nothing.
Exactly. It's so
Yeah.
there's this weird subtlety to it. Like all of a
You've,
sudden it's
cause,
just like,
and you've also, you got to remember though, you've always been what you've looked for. You've always been whole and complete. It's never left what you've looked for.
hmm,
So it's within everything and every experience. What the person is looking for is within every experience they've ever apparently had. It's never
yeah.
not been there. So of course it's familiar. It is already everything. It's stunning.
Familiar is like
Yeah,
an understatement.
familiar is an understatement. Yeah, because you are that. So that's
Yeah.
why when I speak as well about the obviousness of it, that's the thing. It's so ludicrously open and obvious and already just this, that's how it's hiding. It's
Nothing's
continually
missing.
rejected by the person then in favor of some concept of what they're looking for that's going to
Yeah.
be around the corner.
Yeah.
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 Hmm.
It's sometimes it's the words that come to mind. It's like nothing's missing. Nothing's missing.
Nothing is missing.
It's
Everything
it's
is
this
whole and
little
complete.
extra bit you can't ever. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Yeah.
But
Anyway.
nothing needs to be done. I like the way you said there that not everything has apparently happened without you. You know, it's hilarious because the person thinks that they're doing everything, and the idea that life would actually happen without them is just
Inconceivable.
totally inconceivable and bamboozling. They can't. How do you mean? Like, I mean, I drive my car. If I didn't drive my car, I wouldn't get
No.
from this town to this town. It wouldn't happen.
That's
I do my job. I do my job. I'm in there doing it. I'm working hard, and I got to that position by studying my master's degree, doing my undergrad, getting my work experience, doing my master's, and getting this job.
Yeah.
It's nonsense what you're saying to me. And the incredible thing is you've never been there. You've never been there. Nobody is ever there. It's just apparently what's happening.
Yeah.
And everything, life is already happening without them. And it's apparently happening, and then they add themselves to it. So there's the driving of the car, and then there's the addition of me, I'm driving the car. And there's the job, and I'm doing the job. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
I have COVID here too, by the way, today.
Okay. That's what's happening.
Hey, Kenneth.
How you doing?
How you
Benjamin.
doing? Ben from the UK. How you doing,
Oh,
man?
Ben, how are you?
Yeah, good. I think we spoke last week.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Love it. It's great. Loving the shirt, the haircut. Perfect.
The shirt's a distraction from the hair, maybe.
I
could have gone more floral, but this is kind of.
I used to wear them in like late 90s, you know, when they were sort of trendy.
Yeah.
And I can't change my sort of shirt buying habits since then.
Yeah, they're not trendy anymore, Ben. Is that what you're telling me?
I know. I keep wearing them too, man. I've got the same thing. I don't exactly.
I'm joking, yeah.
So like my question is, it's more about like, I get it. Like what's happening is happening, and everything is kind of like you can ascribe everything a meaning, and give it a value. And things become very abstract because you're thinking about the past and the future. And I think I understand that a bit, and I almost can let it go in a way. So it just things become very immediate and very sort of visceral. But still, like
you can't understand what I'm suggesting here. What's being suggested here?
Tell me, man.
It's not understandable.
Sure.
I know. I mean, I don't mean I to be glib or anything, but like I mean, it's not what's being suggested is not knowable or understandable. And that's what this is all about. there's kind of, it can be heard on a very conceptual level, because people are saying things and there's a response. So there's a question out of nothing and there's a response out of nothing. And it can be like, as it can appear like it's conceptual, that there's an idea somewhere there that to get rebukes another concept or whatever. But that's all of that's irrelevant. It's not understandable at all. It's not gettable. You won't get this. Like, you won't get to a point where you get this. I have not got this. Nobody has ever gotten this, ever.
I'm with you, and I get it,
Yeah.
and I'm really happy not to get it. I mean, I'm fine. I get it, and it's like,
Okay.
I'm really happy to sort of, I can see this sort of void encroach. It's not even a void; it's just shapes and sounds and life, and I can see it. It's there. There it is. But still, it's like, okay, January, I'll have to do my taxes. Next week, something's going to happen, and we can say, oh, it's just.
But that's what's happening there. Then there's still a sense of being a person there, that there's a January for and someone who has to do their taxes. There's a sense of being separate there. So that sense of being separate, getting something, is not going to do any way alleviate that sense of being separate. There's nothing that can touch the sense of being separate. There's nothing that can be said. There's nothing that can be done. There's nothing that can be not done. It's just, it plays out as it plays out.
All right, then, let me ask you a different question. So, like, and I know this is like a really obvious question, but there must be some residual sense of something. There must be something, even if it's not I or it's not self. There's like a residual sense of something.
Where? Here?
It might, but so like, how does, like, for example, Kenneth have a different experience to, say, Tony or Jim or Tim or whatever? How do those sort of, they're speaking from nothing?
These are all just characters you're talking about. So it doesn't matter who you say. Life appears as Kenneth, and it's life Kennethine, and every appearance is unique, just as every flower is unique and every snowflake is unique and every person is unique, and that's the way it is, and it plays out as it plays out, and it's of no significance at all.
Sure, but like,
So,
I don't know what question I'm trying to ask. I mean, like,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't, there's just talking there, and yeah.
Yeah, it's good, man. I like it.
It feels like, yeah, no, I'm glad you spoke. And in this, it's, if there's something there to be said or asked, it's there to be said or asked, and that's it. It's a very energetic, I keep coming back to this. It's a very energetic communication. It's all about the energy. It's all about a resonance. So getting an answer, there will be no answer, because it doesn't matter anyway. There is no answer. Yeah. My impression is that there's somebody there who's kind of has an idea of what's being suggested, and is trying to understand what it's like for another character, i.e. Kenneth or someone else, to explain what this concept they have of that life is like. And that can never happen, because this is not describable. It's not describable because it's terribly complex and esoteric and blah blah blah. It's not describable because it's just boom. It's just this. It's just whatever appears to happen. Yeah. It's not, and it's so immediate it can't be known or described.
All right. Well, let me ask this then. Like, do you think your like, if I can put it this way, just humor me. Like, your abstraction in a way has sort of disappeared a little bit. So rather than worrying about things that are coming up or things that have happened, or is it more, are things more immediate? Could you say?
Yeah, what I would say is that it's very, very clear that whatever appears to happen is whole and complete, and it can't be any other way. So if something happens here that's quite traumatic or distressing or whatever, negative or painful, whatever, it's not that it's less painful. It could be more painful because there's nobody filtering it anymore. There's just that whatever's happening. but it's seen very clearly that it cannot be any other way, that it is as it is, that is oneness, that is wholeness. But it's not
You
seen
can't.
by it's not seen
Yeah.
by anybody. There's nobody in here thinking, oh, this is, you know, standing back from everything, philosophizing about it, saying, oh, this is painful, but it has to be oneness, or, you know, there's nobody here with a concept, with a concept.
Would you
Does
say
that kind of,
it's
does
like,
that kind of hit what you're saying?
Would you say that there's nobody there to fight?
Yeah, there's nobody fighting against what's happening. Yeah.
So you can't do anything else.
Because
but
the
sort of-
person, yeah, the person is fighting against what's happening
Yeah.
continually. It's a constant agitation because it's a
Yeah.
continual struggle to fill this bubble of me that's yearning for wholeness, to be bigger, to be full and whole and complete.
Yeah.
And the way that the person feels they can do that is to pull in pleasure and push away discomfort. That's that's
like
a
an
central
analogy
theme of
that-
it. So there's no longer pulling in pleasure and pushing away discomfort, because there's an in loveness with what is. Ha ha! Woo! So it's,
then that's exciting and scary.
you know,
beautiful,
it
whatever,
is, and it is scary too, though. It is scary because it's the person lives in the bubble where it's safe. You see, everything is safe and knowable. They live in the known. But when there's nobody, life is so immediate and just whatever appears to happen that, yeah, it's full on.
You know, I went.
It's
up
not
in,
safe anymore.
I went up in a hot air balloon recently, and I've never done it
nice.
before. And the sort of the ground disappears from your feet, and you're just in this basket, you know, with a load of other people. And it's that kind of thing where all your safety net just disappears completely. And my reaction, my partner was very cool and she didn't care, you know, but like I was sort of, my feet were sort of like clamming up a bit, you know. I was tense, you know, and you kind of think that by being tense that you're sort of somehow fighting it. You know, you're not going to die because you're sort of tensing up and you're sort of bracing yourself.
Yeah.
And obviously you're not. That has no sort of effect at all because you're up in the air, and then eventually you sort of get used to it and you're floating and it's beautiful, you know. But is that I feel like my
yeah, it is a tension. It is a tension. It is a tension. Being a person there's a tension. There's it's an embodied contraction. So in that cellular contraction of feeling that there's a me in here, there's a tension to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I often think of, is it we said, being a person is like standing on a train holding your luggage and thinking that if you put down your luggage, it won't get to the destination.
Yeah, it's like OCD or something, isn't it?
So you're standing there holding your luggage, afraid to put your luggage down.
Yeah.
Because if you put it down, it's going to stay back there. It won't go to where you're going. But you're standing on a train.
That's my whole life.
You know, so.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. Love it.
Thanks, Ben.
Take care, buddy.
All right.
Hi, Kenneth.
Hey, man, how's it going?
Not too bad. Would you say that this waking state is as a play that's going on, that unconditional love is providing, and is providing all the characters?
Yeah, play is a lovely analogy of it.
All the scenery and
everything,
all
yeah.
the emotions and all the thoughts, everything.
Everything, yeah, it's a play. It's like being on it's the stage. That analogy is used quite a lot, actually. Being a play, it's a play. It's like an actor realizing they're in a play, whereas they were lost in the role of the character in the play. Yeah. That it's a story, it's a play. Yeah, it's a play of life. It's a play of light. I like it. I like that term. It's a play of life.
And everything is included.
Everything, there is oneness. There is only oneness.
Mhm.
So it's hard for nothing to be excluded.
Yeah.
You know, because there's only oneness. And another way of saying it is there's only energy. So that's all there is actually, is energy. Energy is a nice
You
word.
often said
Yeah.
that it is stunningly ordinary.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely ordinary.
Yeah,
Because the
just
person wants it to be special and wants it to, the person lives in a dichotomy or duality of special, not special. This is the play of the person, and they believe that there's something special, and they're moving towards this special through the levels to something special, and it's nonsense. There's no special, not special.
you probably have answered that. When you said it was stunningly ordinary, I was going to ask you, did you ever play bad golf?
No, I only ever played good golf, Eamon.
Oh, we got
You liar. Yeah,
it.
I played apparently played a lot of bad golf. Yeah. And what is it about the bad golf?
Would you call it stunningly ordinary?
Yeah, stunningly ordinary golf. I usually play stunningly ordinary golf, and then I sometimes play that, and then often bad golf. I don't play any golf now. I have 3 young kids, so I think I played 1 game apparently this year. So, yeah, it is everything. It is already everything. I mean, there's no, there's no agenda here to that anybody will not be separate. Listen to this. Everything that they're looking for, or everything that's being looked for, is already speaking to them. You know, buying a liter of milk in the shop. That's it. It's saying, hello, it's here, it's me, it's this, just this. Walking down the road. And in actuality, a lot of the time during the day, people aren't there, and then they're back, and then they're there again. It's it can waver in and out, but there's no, when they're not there and then they're back and there again, for some reason it's not as significant or noticeable as, say, an awakening experience. It's kind of goes unnoticed when they're back, that they just weren't there. And then of course you get to nighttime and to bed and to sleep, and there's nobody there in sleep. There's actually nobody there. So we die every night. So this kind of neurosis of being a person, this contracted energy of being separate to everything, it just goes every night and you're dead. There's just bodying, breathing. And then in the morning, right, get your game face on, let's go. Let's do this. Thanks a lot, Eamon. Thanks, Lynn. So Andy, just about messages in the chat, if you're going to ask me something, I would really recommend it's like 2 or 3 sentences, because my eyesight's not great. The screen is far away. I'm not going reading big paragraphs of stuff. I should have said that maybe at the beginning. But Andy says, could I speak more about the heaviness of story neurosis when the apparent me falls away? Okay. As well as past and future. All right, so we got to the first part first. Is the heaviness of the story is there's an I think we said it on it. We hit on it there earlier. There's an agitation to being me. There's a continuous agitation to feeling separate. It's a very dissatisfying state, you could say, or maybe state's the wrong word. It's very unsatisfactory, and there's a huge sense of unworthiness in being a person, because wholeness has been lost. Everything's been lost. So usually the me feels very unworthy, little old me and the world out there. And then in that story of me, we have this story about how we can make our life work, and we have sense of control and decisions and so on and so forth. And there's a neurosis to that, the sense of feeling that you have a life that you control, and that everything that happens to you in that life is as a result of your control and what you've done. It can be a very neurotic state. It doesn't have to be, but there's a certain sense of neurosis. Now, I mean, there can be a certain neurosis in the character or anyway, and it's not that all that completely dies, but most of it largely can fall away when there's a person, when there's apparently nobody anymore. Yeah. So the past and the future, or that the sense of being separate, is, there's an aspect of it in that there's the sense of time is an aspect of sense of being separate. That's what it is. It's the sense that there's a real thing called time and space, which are two sides of the same coin. They're on a continuum. So there's a sense that my past is behind me, and I'm in the now somewhere. It's kind of floating in this now thing, which is quite amusing, really. I'm not sure when the past started, and I'm not sure when the future is going to kick in, but let's call it the now. And it's something I'm told I should be in more, be in the now. So that's can be a lived reality for the person. For some people, that's not very strong, actually. There's always a question of time. They don't really feel it's very real, but it just plays out as it plays out. When there's no longer a sense of being a person, it's very clear that time is an appearance, that time is a clock on a wall ticking, that it's like everything else, it's real and unreal. But for the person, everything is absolutely real. Memory is real. And the last part of that, sorry, that was Andy. And the last part of what Andy said, if not, are memories real? Memories are simply another idea, another thought rising in the mind. That's all they are. They're just coming from a different part of your brain. They're held in a different way, and they have a different quality to them. The person treats them like a country, and a real country in the past that happened. A country you could get a boat to maybe sometime, or you can't get a boat from. The reality. Actually, their more recent work on memories are showing the plasticity of memories, that they're continually added to and subtracted from all the time. Steve, did you mean to hammer there? Are you jumping in for a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask a question.
You're like a high court judge. Order in the court.
That wasn't me. That was someone outside. I apologize for that.
You're fine. I'm only joking. You shoot.
Causation.
Causation,
I know you've said elsewhere that there's no cause and effect.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, I think you've talked about turning the key in the ignition and the car started. Or at least that's a possible way to think about cause and effect. Could you talk a little about that?
Say that again, sorry.
Cause and effect.
Yeah. I just missed one. Hmm?
Things seem to have a cause and effect.
Yeah, yeah.
And yet when I think of causation, on the one hand, it's impossible because everything can be a cause.
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The
Where does the cause start? Like, yeah.
All the conditions, gravity, you need all those things for anything to seem to occur.
Yeah, yeah, that's.
Yes.
Yeah, it feels like it's in the story of being a person, you know, there is this thing called cause and effect. So it's treated as absolute reality. So our whole judicial system, everything is built on cause and effect. So therefore, you know, I get into my car, I look left, I look right, I pulled the car out and bang, I hit another car. And then the cause was that I looked this way, but I didn't look this way quick enough, or whatever the thing is, and I pulled out, and that was the cause of the accident. But as you said, well, you got into your car, and then you got up that morning, and then it's like a lot of them, when you start breaking them down even logically, it's like it doesn't stack up. But I mean, that doesn't need to be understood, or it's just from this perspective, there's no cause and effect. It's a feature of being a separate person, just like time and space. And the individual would find that very difficult to believe. Not that you're asked to you're not asked to believe anything here, but causality is very core to the person. So, but there's clearly no causality.
Okay.
And also the other thing about causality, this is probably the more significant thing after all that big ramble, is this is nothing appearing to happen. There's nothing happening. So for causality, something has to be happening. So this is actually no thing being everything. It's nothing appearing. So that's totally beyond the mind, completely and utterly beyond the mind. Because the person lives in a real world where they are real and things are happening to them.
Thanks.
Thanks, Steve.
Hi, Kenneth. It's Christiane. Thank you for
Hi,
doing
Christiane.
it. Yeah. So I feel like a contract a cell, and I'm struggling with laziness. So when you just said to Andy, I realized that I feel there's a cause to laziness, and I feel it will be better to work, to do things, and it's very relaxing that life could be lazy.
Yeah, life is lazy too. Yeah, that's it. There's a sense when there's a person that it's part of the story that you're not enough something and you're too much something else. Yeah, that's very, very common. So the story is laziness. For someone else, it's something else. You know, it's whatever it is. I'm too aggressive. I'm not caring enough. So there's always this sense of having to work on oneself. Yes. It's kind of back to what we said earlier, that the person feels that everything in their life, it's the center. You're the center of everything, and everything is happening because of you. Yeah. The big joke is you're not there. But when you feel there and you feel like that separate self, then there's a big to-do list.
Yes,
yeah, and laziness is on your to-do list. Must not be lazy. Tomorrow, hopefully not be as lazy. Must not be lazy about being lazy. Must. And it's just ongoing. It just goes on and on and on and on. And that's all in the story. It's in the loop of being a person. And nothing needs to change. There's not a suggestion here being made that something needs to be understood or something. Everything is already whole and complete.
Wow, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hey, Kenneth.
Hey.
Would you say that the dream of me is just wholeness dreaming?
Yeah, but there's no thing called wholeness, but it's oneness, it's energy, dreaming. Yeah, I suppose you could say that. Yeah. The difficulty is the difficulty is the person is always kind of trying to because the person feels like it's a subject object, and it feels like this subject, everything else is an object. So it will take what's being said here and make an object out of it. And it will want to think that there's a thing called wholeness doing something else. And that's not what's being said.
Because the dream of me seems to be localized to an individual.
Yeah.
And so, but if that's, I guess my thinking was, if that's wholeness dreaming, then wholeness
Yeah.
seems to have a preference for dreaming over.
Yeah, there's no thing called wholeness. It's like like a thing called God or thing called. There's no thing. There's no big kind of governing body of oneness who decides, oh, I'm going to stream now.
Right.
That's still, but that it's very, because the person is continually trying to understand what's being said, because that's the way the person goes. It's a loop of knowing. Then they'll come up with ideas as to what's being said, and then that's a logical one. Is that there's something bigger that's doing something, like playing a game of being separate or whatever. Whereas all there is energy, and this is energy. This is just energy now, and energy can also appear to ask the question, well, I feel whole, I feel separate, and then that's just energy. Yeah.
But I'm not actually doing anything. I'm just
There's life.
life dreaming, I guess.
There's life Thomasing. I mean, or there's life. Whoever that character is, that's energy just playing that character.
Right.
But there's that sense of being in the character. It's a real sense of separation. It's not an idea. It's a really felt sense that there's a world out there and I'm in here. I'm embodied in this, and there's a It's if it was a concept or an idea, then it would probably be it would be dealt with quite easily, really. Ideas can be replaced by other ideas. Concepts that are ignorant can be, elucidated and made clear. It doesn't matter. That's just someone then who would understand they're not there. This can't be understood, no matter what notion that's come up with about this. What's being suggested here is about something, it's very immediate and it's very ordinary, and it's that there is only just what appears to be happening. There is only aliveness. And that sense you have of being in there is artificial. So what is always looked for is what always is. It's never not this. But as a person, it's, I need to understand what Kenneth's saying. I kind of get some of it, and maybe one day I'll get it and then I won't be there. That's the person playing this constantly something else other than this.
But I'll never get it because it's not gettable, right? I mean, it's not.
Nobody's ever gotten it because it can't be gotten. Because it's just, what can appear to happen is that sense of being separate is no longer. Yeah. And when that apparent energy of being separate apparently falls away, it's seen that it was never real. It was never real, that you were never separate at all. And that all the while you ran around like a dog chasing his tail looking for something, and you were always looking for what always was. And oneness was just sitting there patiently. That's a story, but you know what I mean?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Kenneth.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi. Yeah, it's a very strange experience for me. This is like free falling.
I love free fall. I love free fall.
I'm still very identified in my mind.
Yeah.
And yet, whatever's happening in my life, I feel there's no control at all. I'm not in charge.
No, you're not. No.
And it's
not even your life.
No. Yes. the me is very threatened, and it's a very uncomfortable experience.
Yeah, it is very threatened here. It's not a comfortable place for the me to be, because at the heart of this, if what's being said is there is no me, there's no individual. So the individual is not going to be too happy about that.
No,
uh,
it's like almost sitting in its space,
yeah,
made up space, even more.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's very confronting suggestion.
yeah.
So I said we spoke about that at the beginning. That this is it's completely boundless, and the resonance is totally boundless, because there's no agenda here. There's nobody being spoken to, and anybody who's apparently tuning into this or at a meeting or into this communication is seen as nothing but already whole and complete. That's very powerful. And at the same time, that feels separate to it is very confronted by this, because it would much rather this to be a message of becoming, of okay, a story of Kenneth, who has this lovely tale to tell about falling away and encountering oneness. And I'm there, guys. I got the fucking keys. I robbed the keys when I was there, and I can show you guys how to get there. I'm going to sneak you in one at a time. If you give me this or give me that and blah, 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 and we'll get you there to oneness. It's nonsense, because there is only oneness. There's never any separation. Nobody's ever separate. So there's nobody it's being spoken to here. And that's very confronting.
Well, I quite like it.
Yeah, it's resonating. It's resonating too. Yeah.
I listened to another talk this afternoon, and was talking about consciousness, before consciousness, and non-reality. But it felt like they're still trying to teach.
I was trying to do a pretend yawn, and I did a real yawn there. Yeah, boring.
Yeah,
bores the fuck out of me.
You can tell when somebody.
It doesn't bore the fuck out of me, because I don't listen to it anymore. I don't listen to it at all. I wouldn't. But yeah, it's like ugh. And the world is full of it. I mean, that's 99.9% of the communications of our.
That you can
nonsense.
Still do something about it.
Absolutely, and the energy. It's not confronting. It's not confronting, because it's sensed in that communication that I'm safe here, because I'm being spoken to here. It's very safe. And it either kicks off it either kind of fills the apparent person or it doesn't. So, and then you move on. But if it fills the person, it'll fill them for a while. It'll be temporal. It'll be transient, and it'll be a yearning again to get more of that, or to be more full by that, or to go on to the next level of the teaching, or
yes, it makes you feel like, oh, you've still got, it's up to you.
Oh, it is, yeah.
You've got to do the work to get there.
Yeah. You got to work harder.
No, thank you.
Yeah. That's the way it works. But that's generally the way it works with everything too, if you want to get this job, then that's the way it feels. It feels very real, that you've got to put in the work to get from A to B. How else would it happen? It wouldn't happen otherwise. But this is nothing appearing to happen. And it's stunning. It's stunning. It's not describable. It's absolutely ordinary. And it's just, there's an inloveness then with what's appearing to happen. And everything is allowed. A shitty mood arrives for nobody. A painful experience. It's not even an experience anymore, because there's nobody there to experience it. Pain arises. It's complete. It's full. Joy. Everything. It's just so full on.
Thank you.
Thanks. Nice to hear from you. So Gustav says, are there two dimensions or realities happening simultaneously, one inside the loop and another outside? There's only energy, and energy arises as a sense of being separate to itself. So that's all there is. Oh, there's only oneness, and in that oneness, it's this sense of a lived reality. It's not, there's not two separate realities. So for that sense of anyone being separate, it is already that's the oneness that's been looked for is already what's appearing to happen. Although it may feel like a lived reality of being separate to that. But you, I don't know if we touched on this earlier, but when I say that what's being looked for, I often say what's being looked for rather than what you are looking for. And the difference is that you are only being, the individual is a closed loop of being you. That's all it is. But it's not interested in what's being said here. And it's not being spoken to. There's no individual being addressed or spoken to. Because all the individual can do is just be an individual. So therefore, all it will do is reject this. So you don't want what's being looked for. This is the paradox. And actually what's being looked for is your own absence, is you not being there. Ta-da! So that when this is seen, there's no inner or outer. There's no up or down.
Eamon back again, Kenneth.
Eamon, hi Eamon.
This seems to be a relatively new communication. Like we never heard of this communication in the previous generation or any other generations.
I wouldn't say it's new communication. It's always been there, but it's been overlaid by dogma. If you look at what was said in a lot of the Gnostic Gospels or the Gospel of St. Thomas, this is very clearly this, but then it's overlaid by dogma and bullshit. Zen Buddhism at its heart was very clearly, I would say, this, and then it was taken and turned into a teaching. There's many, many examples of where this is pointed to very clearly, but then overlaying that pointing is a dogma or a teaching. I don't know if it's definitely being said quite clearly. Maybe it's more available now. I don't know.
And these so-called gurus like Mr. Gary, what was his name? Gadatta? Mr. Gadatta. As I was always reading about them, that the followers resonated with him. And maybe he wasn't giving them a communicate or a method, but they were just resonating with him.
Don't know. Yeah, I'm sure. Like there's been people who, there's been other characters who've suggested this, but mostly 99% has been a dogma and a teaching of becoming. Yeah. Like I've no very little interest in people say, oh, Ramana Maharshi and these characters. There was no Ramana. There was no fucking Ramana. So why do you hung up about Ramana for? There is nobody. Like as if they're talking about this guru or teacher. They don't, it's all a story. There's for no interest in it really. There's from the sense of a person, it's as if there was these people who knew something. There's nobody who knew anything ever. There might have been a clear communication, or there may not, but it would be nothing to do with the character either. It's very ordinary, what's being said. Very, very ordinary.
But the previous character was talking about listening to a different non-dual teaching there previous to this one.
This isn't a non-dual teaching.
I know it's
This
not,
isn't a teaching, and there's no such thing as non-duality. So
yeah, I know that, yeah. But it's still, would you not say it's still?
just a sharing. It's just a sharing. It's a suggestion that's being shared, and
Well,
it's shared in openness, and
Yeah.
it's shared from no thing. So from no thing appears a question, and from no thing appears an answer, and that's it. There's no agenda, because there's nobody to get or not get anything. There's only what appears to be happening.
Yeah.
It feels like, I can see how it feels like that for a person, that they tune into. There's no meeting. There's not even a meeting. And that is, I would have said during my actual real meetings, not virtual meetings, they're also real and unreal. So they were many, if you'd ever, I don't know, did you ever go to a meeting? Apparently, but if you were ever at one, you probably heard that there is no meeting, there's no non-duality, there's only what appears to be happening.
Yeah, but these non-duality, say, teachers, this communication is still coming from oneness.
Which one?
Anyone.
Yeah, but yeah, of course. There's nothing that's not oneness.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's not it. Like
Yeah.
energy appears as a bullshit communication that tells you if you meditate 5 hours a day, you'll reach a state of realization and readiness for oneness, and you'll drop away. That's just energy doing that. There's nothing right or wrong with that. People sometimes hear this and think that what's being suggested here is there's something wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with anything. There's nothing right with anything. Everything just is as it is. But most of the communications are speaking to an apparent person and are teachings of imprisonment. That's the part that people don't like then.
Interesting.
Is the me a sense of protection? Says, there's a sense of it's the me is a bubble of, it's a loop, a closed loop of knowing, and it protects itself from the unknown, because the unknown is death. So it's an aspect of the me is protecting itself, continually protecting itself, yeah, from what's perceived as an outside world. So when the me appears to negotiate through the world, it appears to meet separate objects, and them separate objects, this happens very, very, very quickly. You're either a threat, you're kind of somewhere in the middle, or you're of some gain to me as a person. So you can sometimes see it when people meet you in a semi-business way, or even like in America, they'd make no bones about networking. So you're networked. So you're introduced, and you can see it in the eyes. Actually, they're very quickly figuring out, are you any use to them? And if you're not, then you're just kind of discarded, or you're a threat, you're kept away. And that's the sense, that's a feature of being a person, moving through the world, fear of the unknown, and making the known greater, and making the loop stronger, and making that the more you know, the more powerful you can be, and the more protected you are. And all the while, actually what's looked for is actually the unknown, is actually what already is actually your own absence, because that's oneness. And this is oneness. It feels like a barrier. You could say for the person, it is a barrier. There's a lived reality of being a person, and the barrier is the skin. There's a sense of being in here and there's a world out there. That's the lived reality for a separate person. This is the suggestion that there is no separate person, that sense of contracted self is artificial. It's not real, and it never has been real.
Hey Kenneth, Ben from UK again.
Hey Ben, how you doing?
I just wanted to ask what you think of people who are trying to make a positive difference in the world. I'm not sort of asking you to put them down or anything, but I guess like this idea of positive charge and a negative charge, that somehow we can make life better, not just for ourselves, but also like, I guess in the wider world, whether it's either like being a politician or supporting a political party or going and working for a charity or whatever it is. What do you think?
It's just what appears to be happening.
Sure.
That's all it is. Yeah, it's just what appears to be happening. It's not right or wrong. It's just what appears to be happening. So you could say if someone was working for an NGO in Africa or South America or somewhere, fighting against some of these multinational oil companies and gas companies coming in, raping the indigenous lands and peoples, that's pretty disgusting to that person's mind, and they feel that they're doing that. And if that person, a parent person, was to fall away, it would probably be likely that work would still continue. Actually, there'd just be a passion for raging against authority, and that would very likely continue, but there would be nobody there inside their feeling that they're doing it. It would just be what appears to happen, and it would be seen that everything is just complete. Everything is just complete. Yeah.
I guess what I'm getting at, maybe this is a little bit before what you're talking about, but I guess like you've sort of sketched out a picture of somebody for a charity fighting against an oil company.
Yeah, just a random example that came to mind too.
But also you could be working for a charity that maybe like on the surface of things has really good intentions, but like, you know, similarly, it might be working for an African charity that's involved in development, and that development means tearing their jungle down. And actually, like a Western idea of development, if you like, or you might work. I mean, I used to support various different charities, and I remember I used to support like cancer charities, cancer research charities, and animal rights charities at the same time. And at some point, I realized maybe.
Well, there's no any helping. There's no helping. There is no helping.
Yeah, that's helping. That's what I'm getting at. So I'm
yeah,
like,
no, I can kind of sense that from when you came back.
There's nothing you can do, right?
No, there's no positive or negative. No, there is no positive or negative.
To be like some kind of, you know, whatever your worst description of a human being is, or a political party is. If I turn, that's what I wanted to sort of do.
There's in the story, good is fighting bad, and they're all constantly moving to overpower bad and make the world a good place.
Yeah,
that's a feature of the story. Yeah. In an actuality, everything is already just whole and complete, and there's nothing actually happening. And in the sense of go on.
Like people, that's, you know, I don't mean to drag this to a sort of awful place, but if you look at like totalitarian regimes in the world, you know, in the past, that's often the or even politics now, if you like, but that's often the sort of setup that they do it under. It's like, we're going to make everything good. So whether that's like communism, like back with Stalin back in the day, or it's like your political parties now, we're the people who know. We're going to make
central narrative. Yeah,
we're going to change it.
We're going to make Kazakhstan great again.
But even in small ways, you know, like people do it, and then there'll be people on the other side who are trying to sort of do something. I guess it's just something you always run into with this. It's kind of like, I suppose I'm trying to get into this idea that it's like an ethical question, and for me, there's no ethics. I mean, it's not even a question really. I guess there's no ethics. It's just
it's just what appears to be happening. That's the way the story appears to be. But the sense of helping is interesting. That helping is the helper is only helping themselves actually. That's very
absolutely
clear and obvious. And if someone thinks they're helping another person, they're only ever helping themselves in that sense, because they're helping feed the sense that they are a good person who's doing good in the world. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And that it often feeds into someone being a victim. And I'd often say in a different role You know, if you want to be a victim, you'll find a queue of people down the street for you to be a victim. There'll be a queue of people because they want you to be the victim so they can be a helper. So if you want to do that story, go ahead, no problem. You can see how that works out for you. You know, and that actually resonates quite strongly. Actually, a lot of people see that. It becomes very obvious if you want to do the victim story. But if they do the victim story, that's what's appearing to happen then. Nobody's ever helped anyone. It's just another role.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is
this
is
often seen and this is often seen in people in helping roles. Actually, to be honest, everyone assumes people in a helping role are kind of do-gooders, and there is do-gooders, but then there's also people who are in it and can clearly see that it's not what it seems like from the outside.
I mean, my friend, she's a Buddhist, and you know, God bless her, and yeah, I've been interested in it myself, but she's been to Tibet, she's lived there, and she thinks sort of through the teachings of sort of this Tibetan Buddhism that somehow it is moving the world on, and to be compassionate.
I like what was his name? Andrew Cohen. He wasn't happy with enlightenment. He wanted evolutionary enlightenment for the planet,
for everybody. But that's like Stalin, right? It's like,
yeah, that's it. It's more. It's all the same thing,
yeah.
just repackaged. Yeah.
So
and there's a sense like if that character, you know, goes to Tibet, does the teachings, and feels that story will just play out as it plays out until the death of the physical death of that body mind, and it can't be any other way. And all the while in that is the invitation to see, all the while is that there's just this, there's just what appears to happen.
Yeah, so it's kind of unrelated. So like, I don't want to, you know, just to sort of play devil's advocate for a minute. So if we found something out about your personal life and secretly you were sort of very sort of, you know, holy sort of Tibetan Buddhist on the one hand, and then perhaps in a parallel reality, we found out that secretly you were a kind of, I don't know, you had some abhorrent sort of views, you know, like you were some neo-Nazi type character, it wouldn't actually matter.
Nothing matters, no.
It doesn't matter.
Nothing matters. Only things only matter in the sense for the person in the story.
Yeah.
And there's a wonderful freedom with that. It's a total freedom from things having meaning, and for the person there's layers of meaning, significance, the way I should be, the way I shouldn't be, blah 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 blah. It's really heavy.
I don't want to hog the floor here, but I just see it like, I think the problem a lot of people have these days is, like in the States you see it a lot, here in the UK we see it a lot, and you kind of, people are constantly looking for somebody who confirms their own sort of beliefs, you know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I lived in London for a long time, and I moved to a little village recently, and you know, I see neighbors who probably are very different, who vote very differently to me and stuff, but they're actually on the surface of things very nice people. And like, I mean, I'm kind of getting off topic here, but I guess I'm getting into the experience of what it is to be around them, you know.
But that's what it is to be a person, is to have a certain set of beliefs and to surround yourself with others who believe similar, so you're not feeling threatened. You know, I mean, people who, with Trump in America, they cut off a load of friends who voted for Trump. They couldn't, in all good conscience, be friends with them anymore, because that's just the way the story is. Yeah. You gravitate to people with a similar worldview.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So Andy says, could you talk about feeling separate and loneliness are linked together? So when I feel like a separate person, there's a world out there and I'm a subject and an object, and I relate to others, and I feel lonely. Loneliness comes from that, in that separation, in that sense of being one, being separate to oneness, separate to everything. There's nothing to feel alone when there's nobody any longer. There's only oneness. There's nothing to feel alone. Loneliness is a feature of being a separate person.
Hey, Kenneth.
How you doing?
Yeah, sorry, I have a broken
Oh,
screen, so you can't really see me.
oh, Joey, how you doing, Joey? Yeah.
Yeah,
How's things?
yeah. It's all right. I just to chime in on the Buddhist subject. It's very funny. I have a guy that works for me right now. He was a Tibetan monk for 20 years, since he was 9 years old. So he was 29.
Wow.
Monk. Yeah, but it's very interesting. I tried to raise this subject to him, and it's like he has absolutely no idea about what the hell I'm talking about. Like none whatsoever, completely nothing. And it's
Yeah.
very interesting because that form of Buddhism, like that strict Tibetan form of Buddhism, it's like very much more like Catholicism, really, or anything like it's full of superstitions and deities
Oh yeah, I think
so,
Buddhism. There's this kind of sense in the Western world. Buddhism has kind of been romanticized as this amazingly insightful
yeah,
kind of thing. It's not even a religion. It's this kind of way of being that people are meditative and in the moment, and it's absolute horseshit. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, I know.
it's the same. There's no
It's
difference
just another.
between.
It's no.
It's another
It's just the
dogma.
same
Yeah.
fucking thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's the same
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean the same. I remember a friend saying he went to Thailand or somewhere and he was looking forward to going over because they're all Buddhists, and he was surprised he met a load of assholes within his first couple of days. Where are these assholes coming out of? I thought you were all Buddhists.
Everybody's flown an
You can't
inch
be a
above,
Buddhist and an
above the
asshole.
ground.
That's not congruent. Yeah, it's all dogma.
Yeah. He's a good worker, though. I gotta give that.
Oh yeah, you're recruiting from Tibet now. It's hard to get work.
Yeah. I know. I gotta get him all the way from Tibet.
Yeah, I mean,
All right,
when this
thanks.
was seen, when actually this was seen first, there was a character who was into Buddhism, and I thought this was just first time it was ever seen. I was, oh my God, I can't wait to speak to this person about it. And then he said, I think I had done the Conscious TV, and he said, oh, I saw your Conscious TV. And I said, oh yeah. That was it. That was the conversation. So I mean,
Wow.
it's like, and then like a day later, I'm gone into an hour-long conversation with,
Somebody you didn't expect.
somebody just random. Yeah, I mean, so from the get-go here, it was seen it was nothing to do with the mind's idea of anything, and you never know. It's nothing to do with Kenneth, and it was just arising out of nothing. And then it was actually, I was in a particular role professionally where it probably wouldn't have been a good idea to start saying there was nobody. It wouldn't have been it wasn't a good idea. But yet there was that would just come out. Well, it was obviously just this and there's nobody. And then it'd be like, I was looking at that going, oh, fuck, that wasn't a good move there. Because it just has nothing to do with anybody. It just comes from nothing.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, Joey.
Yeah.
I'm going to start finishing up. I'm going to try and do one-to-one Zooms on a Monday if I can for an hour. I'll send an email about it because some people there's a lot of people booking me in for Zooms, but I want to be able to answer questions too, maybe on a one-to-one, just a short question thing. So I'm kind of looking at a Monday for that. I'll just send an email, yeah. And other than that, then you can just book in a Zoom kind of during the week. I think I sent in my email just if anyone wants to donate anything at all, it'd be great. You don't have to, there's no problem. And thanks very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you, Kenneth.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Kenneth.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thanks
Thanks,
for tuning in.
Kenneth.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers.
Thanks, Kenneth. Thank you.
Thanks. See you next week, guys. Yeah.
Yeah, you will.
Okay. Bye.
Next week.
Bye then.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.